welcome to episode 327 of School Librarians United. I am your host, Amy Herman. This podcast is dedicated to the issues and challenges school librarians face every day. As a school librarian, having finished my 18th year, I knew I wanted a podcast which addressed the nuts and bolts of running a successful library program. I don't claim to have the answers, but I hope that this is a platform to share resources and exchange ideas. Now is a perfect time to mention that all the ideas and opinions expressed in this podcast by myself, my interview guests, and listeners who reach out to the podcast are our own and do not reflect those of our school districts. When incorporating research, I always make sure to cite my sources. So whether you are a novice or a veteran school librarian, this podcast has something for you. I welcome you and all listeners to reach out with your feedback and episode suggestions. You can reach me on Facebook, on X, formerly known as Twitter. My handle is at LMS_United. On Threads, you can find me at School Librarians United, and on Blue Sky at SLU Podcast, or the email address schoollibrariansunited@gmail.com. If you include your mailing address, I'll be sure to send you a podcast sticker. Friends, it is now my pleasure to introduce the sponsor of this podcast, Junior Library Guild. What if I told you that there's a collection development service that can save you time and increase title circulation rates? Junior Library Guild does that and more. With their team of experienced media library specialists and publishing industry professionals, every title they recommend is vetted for my readers and organized into categories based on reading level and interest. Ultimately, Junior Library Guild helps my students foster a love of reading. Use the code UNITED15 to receive 15 free books in your first shipment. Friends, this week I was incredibly fortunate to have attended the American Library Association's annual conference, this year held in Philadelphia. ALA annual conference, or any conference in person for that matter, is much more than attending sessions. For me, it is an opportunity to connect in person with the hopes of building lasting relationships which go way beyond the conference and way beyond what can possibly be achieved through messaging and social media. I wanted to take this opportunity to thank the leadership of the American Library Association who greatly facilitated today's episode, in large part due to the press pass, which was bestowed on me. I have been a podcaster since the summer of 2018, and the designation of press validated my efforts and value of this podcast to support librarians everywhere. I am grateful for this opportunity to use this platform to broadcast and celebrate ALA, the organization, this conference, and our community. Today's episode, I'll be sharing some of the conversations I had with conference attendees. A popular topic was, what brings you to ALA Annual? And I'd like to offer up my own reasons for making ALA Annual Conference a priority. First and foremost is the timing. The fact that this is held during the summertime is huge. We don't have to, at least when we're talking about school librarians, we don't have to worry about missing school days. We don't have to get a sub. We no longer have to get any sort of authorization from our administrators. And, especially for those of us who weren't going to be getting funding from our schools anyway, which is not unusual, unfortunately. But also, it is worth mentioning that, this conference also happens every year, which unfortunately AASL, it happens every other year, which is great. But, I'd like to see everybody every year. It's selfish, but, Also, location. Friends, this conference rotates around the country, which means attendees on the East Coast, the West Coast, and those of us who are centrally situated, our travel expenses are going to vary, and the burden is more equally shared, and attendance tends to sort of vary depending on where it happens in the country. So friends, this year we were in Philly. Next year it'll be in Chicago. The year after that will be in New Orleans, and the year after that, 2028, will be in Denver. The other thing that's interesting to think about is just the sheer number of attendees and vendors. So one of the reasons why there's only a few select cities, sort of in the same way that ISTE can only be held in certain cities is you're looking at, and this has to do with scale, 15,000 attendees and over 500 vendors. Yeah, you're not going to be able to hold this conference in Detroit, much to my chagrin, because I would love to have this in my backyard. The scale of this conference is absolutely huge. You're going to be getting a lot of people in one place, which for some people, in fairness, is something of a turnoff. And for others, this is even a better reason to go because you're going to see that many more people. It's also a great place to attract international attendees and phenomenal keynote speakers. For example, my governor, Gretchen Whitmer of Michigan, spoke at the opening keynote. We also had the former Librarian of Congress, Dr. Carla Hayden. We had amazing authors coming, and publishers were giving these fantastic giveaways. And so it's just the sheer size. Again, for some people, this is a downside, but for others, it's really great because you're likely to run into some really fantastic opportunities just because of the scale. One of the things I will say, I love discovering new cities. I had been to Philly once before in 2019 for ISTE, and I'll be honest, I really didn't get a good sense of where I was. I was really sort of overwhelmed, but I had a wonderful time this year because I came in a day early. That was sort of intentional. I was able to spend some time at their amazing art museum and the nearly 100-year-old Philadelphia Free Library, which was absolutely breathtaking. The Reading Terminal Market is fantastic. For some people, this really makes a big difference when you're going to a conference. There were 75 family-owned businesses inside this market, which was a train terminal and was converted. And it is literally across the street from the conference center. And this is fantastic. You also have a Trader Joe's, which is great because that means you're not going to be having sort of the price gouging that happens if you're in a conference center, which isn't close to anything convenient. But, a lot of people were really excited to be able to explore all those different meal options, and you can't beat across the street when it comes to being at a conference. I really enjoyed, this was the third time I've attended the Newbery Caldecott Legacy Awards banquet, which is really just a wonderful opportunity to celebrate our award winners and have a lovely meal and enjoy each other's company. I also enjoyed going to some events that were hosted by publishers and vendors. That's a really fun opportunity when you go to conferences. And then finally exploring the historic neighborhoods while walking between my hotel and the convention center. But there were also a great network of shuttles, which are always available at ALA, and it really does make it a lot less expensive getting from a hotel to the convention center rather than breaking down and paying for a taxi or Lyft or Uber. I also, for the first time, joined a protest. I joined the Pennsylvania School Library Associations and the supporters of the Philadelphia Alliance to Restore School Librarians in a read-in on the steps of the School District of Philadelphia's administration building. And it was really fantastic. We sat there for an hour. I can post a picture of this. It was really well attended. And it was an opportunity for us to let the community know about the importance of having school libraries and certified school librarians in all of their schools. Currently, there are 5 school librarians to support over 100,000 students. So yes, it's boggling to be sure. I've also included a link to episode 290 in my conversation with the leaders of this organization, link in today's show notes. And now for today's episode, ALA Annual Conference. Friends, I'm so grateful. Right now, we have an opportunity to talk to a return guest from the podcast. We've got Sam Helmick. When we last spoke in December of 2024, Sam was president-elect, and we talked in episode 301 about LibLearnX. But I'll tell you what, today I'm so excited because in a few short days, Sam is going to become president of ALA, and we are going to inaugurate you into this role. Sam, welcome to the podcast.
Wonderful to be back. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Well, I'll tell you what, I couldn't be more excited. Thank you very much for taking time out of your very busy schedule as you move into this new role. I'm so excited for you. It's been fun to see just how incredibly engaged you have been as president-elect and all the things you've done. And let me ask, have you counted how many states you've visited in this year leading up to your presidential year?
I forgot to track it. I really have been tracking stories and individuals more. It's been really heart-filling. My cup runneth over.
Yes, and everybody wants just a little bit of your time, I'm sure. So let me ask, here we are at our national conference, and ultimately we're going to be celebrating the inauguration and launching you into this next chapter of your life. So give me a sense of what it is that motivates you and why this is going to really just be a fantastic year for everybody.
The good work of those around me continues to motivate me. Being here in conference specifically when we're about to turn 150, looking around the city of Philadelphia and recognizing we're about to be 250, and that libraries have been integral to the growth, the growing pains, and the success of communities around the nation. For that entire story is really having me jazzed right now.
I've got to imagine that your new role comes with new responsibilities, and it really is going to be transformative in terms of how you engage with librarians all across this country.
It's incredibly humbling because you know that you and I are both ambassadors to the communities that we serve, and that we represent librarianship not only to our students, but then obviously those who will then grow up to use public libraries or academic libraries someday. So we all know what it's like to be leaders and ambassadors as library workers. But to specifically represent the 50 or so thousand members of the American Library Association, and to see how member leaders like yourself and so many others move the needle for nearly 300,000 library workers in the nation is kind of humbling. But then to have visited other nations and to recognize that due to American culture, when we sneeze, other parts of the world get a cold. And so they're very focused on understanding, A, are we about to turn the pendulum back? Are we figuring this out as a society? B, what do we wish we'd known when we found ourselves behind the 8 ball, because they understand that they will probably do so in very short months or years to come, has been very humbling to recognize that you and I, when we do work, the world watches.
As somebody who lives just a mile away from Canada, and it is really, I'm very cognizant of the fact that our neighbors to the north are watching everything very carefully and the ripple effects that the politics have in our current administration. But I feel like when we have leadership at the national level, like we do with you, and then again talking to Dan, I really feel confident that we are in good hands, because you have been working towards this now for more than a year. It has occupied a great deal of your life. I don't want to sound like it's just, you have dedicated so much of every day to moving into this role as president of this organization.
If I didn't think that I was running towards something I believe in, if I didn't understand the power of libraries, if I hadn't had the opportunity less than 2 decades ago to not actually support a library and to do a 180, I don't think that I would have this much alacrity or energy, to be honest with you. But I had a transformative experience, and I am so humbled that the powers of libraries have given me this chapter, to meet you, to get to work with Dan, to meet so many wonderful colleagues and library workers and authors. Like, I held Jason Reynolds' hands yesterday, and I said, "Who's praying for you, neighbor? Who's loving you, friend?" He goes, "Nobody ever asks me that." And I said, "They should, because we love each other." And we both hugged it out and teared it up. And I was just sort of like, that's a world I never would have had if I hadn't walked into a library and let it change my life. And so, running towards that good feeling, that's a warm fuzzy. And I know there are tons of other Sam Helmicks out there, and if I'm teachable, if there are new chapters for me because libraries give me a space and welcome me home, then let's make sure that everybody gets in,
Friends, we are in good hands. I truly am grateful to ALA for the opportunity to get to speak to both of you. And I will tell you what, I have never been more confident than I have now, having this now second opportunity to meet with you. And I'm so grateful, because truly when it comes to being a librarian right now in this day and age, we need to have people who are truly committed to the cause.
We do. And can I ask for a favor? Okay.
Anything.
friends. So, Dan comes from an educational background in organizing, and his livelihood and mission has been member dependent. And so this is the moment to talk education, to talk school libraries, to talk about the efficacy and power that we have together as school librarians, academic librarians, public librarians, special librarians, corporate librarians, and to make sure that he understands our stories, because I know that he has a strong education background, and to talk about that intersectionality with librarians is going to be your work in the next year, because it always takes about a year, right, to know your work and then to hit the ground running. So can you help me welcome our new executive director and make sure he understands just how wonderful we all know school librarianship is?
Absolutely, and the more I talked with him, and again, he and I have more in common because we share the same alma mater,
Ooh.
Go Blue. But I also am very grateful because as a lifelong union member, I have also recognized that not everybody in the country has been able to join a union and feel that solidarity
Correct.
that we have with fellow educators and people who, in some cases, can be very vulnerable. And then when we organize and have a leadership that respects the need to have that kind of solidarity towards a common cause, it really does. We're all, hashtag better together.
Love it.
Oh.
You said it so well. Thank you.
Sam, I'm so grateful. And listen, I know that we're in good hands. I am grateful for everything you do now and everything. I wish you a wonderful, wonderful year.
Thank you, and for all your listeners, what you do.
Friends, we've got a treat today. Dan Montgomery is the incoming executive director for ALA, and we have a chance to talk. Dan, thank you so much. I know this is a really busy time of transition.
Well, thank you for having me, Amy. This is really fun, and I'm just thrilled to be here at the conference. This is actually my very first ALA conference. So I was for many years an English teacher, a high school English teacher, kind of like the next closest thing to a librarian is being an English teacher, I think. So it's sort of a natural world, and for me, and really exciting. I love librarians and libraries and have spent much of my life in them and in the company of librarians and working with librarians and writers. And so to be in this environment, it feels like being home with family. It's really, really exciting.
Well, ALA National Conference, it really is something to behold. And, as somebody who's attended a few of them, you realize all the wonderful opportunities that come when you have a national conference and you bring all these many different peoples from all different sorts of backgrounds here. But I'm so curious to learn about you. You take on this role starting in November, so you have a little bit of time to sort of make that adjustment. I'll be quite honest, I don't fully appreciate the role of the executive director and what it is you do, but could you give us a sense of a little bit about the process by which you were chosen?
Sure.
And because you're not running for office.
Right, yeah. No, I'm not the elected president. The ALA has a president, as you know, that's elected every year, and they kind of have a process of there's an incoming president, you serve as president for a year, then you're a past president for a year, and those people are really part of leadership long term. That doesn't just happen overnight, and then they stick around too and become part of this bigger sort of leadership culture within the ALA. And also, of course, obviously, there's 14,000 people here, thousands and thousands of members. Most of those people are ALA members. There's, authors and publishers and stuff here too. But the executive director, the ALA has a staff of about 200 people. It's a big organization. And that executive director is in charge of the organization. Kind of everything ultimately that happens organizationally, the director is going to be responsible for. The board, the executive board, who are elected members of the ALA, they interview and select the executive director. And so they've just gone through a long process. I think probably over a year from the beginning. I wasn't in that process for a whole year, but for many months I was, of finding a new executive director, because you can imagine how important it is to the success of the organization. And I see my job ultimately as pretty clear. And it's like to make sure the ALA succeeds is a strong, powerful, influential, member-driven organization that reflects the will of its members. And that's really what it's all about. They've got a really rich history, obviously, coming up to the 150th anniversary of the ALA next year, which I'm just like, this is a cliche, I'm pinching myself, like, seriously, I'm giddy. I can't believe I'm coming in at this time. It's so exciting and thrilling to me as a teacher, as a reader, as a parent, all those things, and a library patron, as an American citizen. It's like, this is such an important organization in our nation. And libraries are such an important part of our civic fabric, and they're under threat like never before. So to me, it's a privilege to be here at this time and to help the ALA be stronger. I can say a little bit about my background, and that because a question I had when they came to me and said, "Hey, would you be interested in applying for this job?" was like, "Why me?" So, I was an educator for many years, obviously a high school teacher, English teacher, and then I got into union leadership. As I say, no one becomes a teacher to become a union leader, but I got into it, and I kept going further and further until finally, in 2010, I was elected president of the Illinois Federation of Teachers, which is over 100,000 members, educators, pre-birth to university and beyond. We have public employees, we've got teachers, we've got faculty in community colleges and four-year universities, we've got graduate students, we have school support staff, and many, by the way, school librarians. And also faculty that teach in library programs, like at the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign. And my job in that for the IFT was being the elected president and the chief operating officer, which is like the executive director position. It was kind of a combined role. That, I think, prepared me well to lead a large, membership-driven advocacy organization. Also, by the way, as people know, teachers' unions, teachers, education in general, really under all kinds of attacks in this country that we haven't seen maybe quite ever, I'm sorry to say. So being in that arena where you're like, okay, we have to represent our members' interests and we have to get out there and defend the big project here. Free public education for all. That's the project we defend in my union world, right? It's very much like what the ALA does, isn't it? So I think that's what they kind of saw in me. And when I started the interviewing with them, frankly, I saw a lot of the same challenges, and it felt familiar to me. It was like, yes, I understand what you're going through. I've been through that and been able to be that in that sort of sphere. So it felt very, like I was actually well prepared to come in and do this. But I have to say, just being here, it's like, even though I'm just here over the weekend for the conference, it's like a great introduction to the human beings who comprise the ALA. And they're wonderful people. They're just like librarians everywhere. They're welcoming, they're generous, they're smart, they're interesting, they're funny, they're full of ideas, and it's just remarkable. So I'm just grateful to be here. I'm so excited to begin the work in the fall. It's going to be a stronger ALA, which means we're going to have stronger public representation for libraries and librarians and their professions going forward.
Well, and friends, I got to tell you, I'm feeling so good about this choice that ALA has made. Number one, as a lifelong union member, I have always belonged to my teachers' union. We are in excellent hands, friends, and I'm so grateful that we had this opportunity to connect. I also will say you did not mention that you and I also are we are also University of Michigan alum.
Go Blue.
Go Blue. And for that reason, I have an even higher esteem for you as an individual.
And born in Detroit. I'm a native Detroiter.
That's right. You and I have a lot more in common, and for that reason, I hold you in even higher esteem. Dan Montgomery, thank you so much. Congratulations in advance on all the exciting things that you are going to do for our organization. Thank you for taking on this responsibility. A great deal is lifted off of my shoulders when it comes to the future of librarians, because quite honestly, right now, especially, we really need somebody who is going to make sure that our needs and interests are going to be forward-facing, especially during this administration.
Well, thank you, Amy. I'm right back at you. Thank you. Thank you for what you do as a public school librarian. It's like I say that I really mean it. It's the bedrock of our democracy, and so I'm just grateful to you. And thanks for having me on. I hope I can come on again some other.
Absolutely, you have an open invitation. Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Shannon Guile, and I'm a high school librarian in Vermont.
Excellent. And let me ask you, you came here to ALA. Is there something that you're looking for? Or there's something that's really guiding how you choose what sessions you attend?
I'm really excited because there's a lot of school librarian sessions. I'm really looking forward to learning more about young adult literature and makerspaces.
I don't think you'll be disappointed. I think you're going to have an abundance of choices. That's fantastic. Now, let me know, what is it you want to share with listeners today?
I want to share with listeners my goal for next school year. I'm new to my library as of last school year, and I would love to reboot our library makerspace.
And so let me ask, are you starting from scratch, or is there something there that you can work with?
I am very lucky that I inherited a beautiful makerspace. And so I'm just going to be working with all the tools I already have and maybe even building on based on teen input.
Well, and I think that's absolutely key. Like when you harness the expertise of your students, all of a sudden your job is really to just put the things in front of them and let them start to take those leadership roles in terms of training, whether it comes to training the students or training the teachers.
I'm really excited because we're buying a brand new Cricut for the next school year, and that seems to be a very popular tool in our makerspace as well.
Well, make sure to include that in your budget proposal because, as I understand, makerspace things can add up.
Oh, yes. I'm very fortunate that I have the funding.
Shannon, I am so grateful. Hopefully you will join us for an episode sometime in the next year or so. That would be really great.
That'd be awesome. Thanks for having me.
Hi, I'm Erin. I'm a high school librarian in New Hampshire.
Fantastic. And what is it you want to share with listeners today?
So I want to talk a little bit about what happens when you get a library, when you walk into a library that has no program. I walked into a library that had a space, a beautifully newly renovated space, but had no movement. My first report on circulation showed that we had circulated about 15 books in 6 months. So that's a really scary number for someone who's coming out of grad school. Like, I'm going to do this. It's going to be great. Kids are going to read. First thing that I was able to do was get into a learning community in the building. I'm a librarian. I naturally went to my English people because that English department was strong. I looked for kind of the strongest department that seemed to really be working well together, and just kind of said like, hi, can I come and hang out with you guys for a little bit? And luckily for me, they were open to that. I have had this amazing collaborative working relationship with them for about 8 years now, but I had to put myself out there. I had to put myself out there to get them to be open to talking about new books, bringing new things into their curriculum. They were so used to not having a librarian in the space, or at least someone who was there consistently in the space, that we had talked a lot about like how we can collaborate, how we can work together on research, and how we can build programs for them. And so I went from having no program to now not knowing what to do with myself because somebody constantly needs something, which is such a good problem to have. You want that problem. I promise you that's the problem you want. But just being able to kind of figure out kind of what they needed and what they were doing in their classrooms. And one of the things that I picked up on really early was they were like, oh, we're teaching kids research, but they don't really know how to search the internet. And I was like, my dudes, we got to figure this out. Like, we got to figure out how to get our high school kids to search the internet in a reasonable way that also helps build skills that they're going to need for fact checking and for understanding what's happening in media literacy. And so I'm really lucky. I actually work with an instructional coach in our building. She has an office inside of my library. And so we work together all the time. And we were able to kind of build a program based off the Stanford History Education Group's paper they came out with in 2019 about kind of digital literacy and what kids understood and what they didn't understand. We took a ton of data. If you can do nothing else, like take all of the data you can on every project that you do. That helped us be able to talk to our administrators and get funding and be able to find ways for them to pay us for all the extra things we were doing. So there's the ability to do those things, and we just have to be able to kind of find them. So that's a lot of advice. Like, find your niche, find the thing that you love, get into the classrooms, get in with your teachers and talk with them. Now I get to do National History Day with my social studies department every year, which is wild. And I get to go hang out with the university librarians, and they're amazing, and being able to kind of build those communities throughout kind of what's happening in your building.
Okay, so I have to ask, and I'm embarrassed because I will tell you right now, in a previous life, I was a history teacher. When is National History Day, and what is it that your school does to celebrate it with your team?
So National History Day is a program that's put on by the National Endowment for the Humanities, or I'm probably mixing up their acronym. It is a project that middle schoolers and high schoolers can do where they pick a project of their choosing based on a theme, and they kind of do all of their own research. They pull up primary sources. It's beautiful. If there are any history teachers out there, it's already packaged. It even comes with rubrics. So go to National History Day, look it up, Google nationalhistoryday.org. It'll be, all of that information is right there. It's beautiful. I'm able to help kids kind of pick a topic, refine a topic. They get a book on what they think their topic might be. They read through that book. They do a report on kind of where they think they're going to go with that project. They start writing research questions. They start pulling up primary sources. We work with our college librarians in the area, and we build this beautiful thing. We've had 3 kids go to nationals, and it's just amazing. So nationals usually happens in June in Washington, D.C. So,
wow. Thank you so much. I really appreciate everything that you've shared with us today, and I hope at some point you consider being a guest on the show.
Happy to.
I'm Angela Daniels. I'm the school librarian for the Alternative School for Math and Science in Corning, New York.
Wow. All right. So let me ask, how is your job as a librarian specific because of the very unique context in which you work?
My job as a librarian in this school is amazing. It is a dream job. Our school is all research-based. So we've known for a long time in education what works, but as large school districts, we often are hesitant to implement those changes. We are very small. We have 3 sections of 16 in the grades 6 through 8, so a total of 48 kids in each grade, and that is it. So I have 148 kids in my school. I know every kid. I know what they're reading. I know what they're great at. I know what they like. I'm a solo practitioner, so I don't have any help, which is a little bit of a downside. But on the flip side, I have 100% support from my administration that I am the expert on librarianship, and however I say we should do it, we do it. So I go into classes, all of our kids do research, and one of our big goals is every 8th grader can use a college-level database and can use that research process from start to finish. So none of my kids are ever going to walk into a college library with half a paper and say, give me some sources to support this. We have a very open structure in our building, so my actual library section is pretty small. So I have books in every single classroom based on what's taught in that classroom, and every one of them is barcoded. They're all mine. So all the ELA classrooms have complete libraries that were designed for that grade level and what they learn in that grade level. The math classroom has our manga collection. The science classrooms have big chunks of our nonfiction collection based on the grade levels and the topics that are covered in those classrooms. There's QR codes all throughout the building so a kid can check out a book in any room in the building. We get to do really cool things. Any research project that happens in our building, I build a custom website for. We give kids sources. We give them places to start. We have all the documentation that they need from their teachers in that same place. So we collaborate really closely with the teachers and are able to create resources for kids that have everything in one place.
All right. So I'm very jealous. So happy for you. That sounds lovely. So I'm curious because if I understand correctly, you're in a middle school setting, and you're obviously going to be taking advantage of the resources that New York provides to schools and to residents in New York. But can I ask, have you made the purchase of any sort of supplemental databases? Do you purchase anything outside of what is already provided to you by the state of New York to support specifically the students and your school's mission?
I haven't had to because New York supports librarians and New York supports librarianship. So we have access to Gale, we have access to EBSCO, we have great access, and I haven't needed to. I also actually work very closely with our local public library. We have an ILL arrangement, and we any database that my kids can access through the school, I require a functioning library card. So we can access them our public library website, and they're walkable. So we actually walk to the public library all together, and I teach them how to use those resources there as well as online and through the school.
Outstanding. Outstanding. I am so excited for you. So let me ask you, you're here at this conference, as a school librarian going to a larger sort of ALA, is there something particular that you're excited to see and do because you're here at this national conference?
So for me, I typically come to these national conferences partially because I want to have a voice for a librarianship. So I volunteer on committees. I'm part of the philanthropic advisory group. So we're raising money. We're creating new opportunities for librarians. And I'm here because I work alone. I'm the only librarian in my building, right? And so while I have incredible admin and teacher support, where we really are a functional team, I'm the only librarian. So this is where I come to find out what's happening in my professional world. This is where I come to get ideas. You know, a lot of the stuff that I do, people are like, oh, that's so innovative. I'm like, I 100% stole that from someone really cool at ALA, you know, and then I just take all the credit, you know.
Angela, I'm so excited that you and I cross paths, and I know we're going to have a fantastic conference in a couple days together. Thank you so much, and have a fantastic conference.
Thanks for talking to me.
Hi, my name is Mary. I am very early in my library journey. I just started my MLIS degree at the University of Maryland 3 weeks ago, so I'm 3 weeks into my first class. But I have also been awarded an assistant position with a high school that I'll start in August, and I've been volunteering at an elementary school, so I have just the tiniest smidgen of school library experience right now, and I'm really excited to see what comes next.
This is so fun because everyone I talk to has had entire careers in libraries, specifically school libraries, and it's like, here you are dipping your toe and seeing how you like it. Let me ask you, what do you think about so far about your course load with your program that you're in?
So I started with just one course. I've been out of college for the last 11 years, so I didn't want to overload myself right away. And I'm really enjoying it. I'm loving being back in school. I'm finding it very manageable while also working full-time right now, taking one course. And then I'll start with 2 courses in the fall and see how that goes for me. But so far, so good.
Fantastic. Tell us a little bit about your school you're working in.
So the school I was volunteering in, I was with the little guys K through 5, which was really fun, super enjoyable. But my position is actually at a 9 through 12 high school. So I'm really excited to get more experience with older learners, help them out with their research, see where my interests intersect with theirs, and just how I can learn and grow at the same time as these kids who are going to be in school at the same time that I am.
Well, your curiosity is going to serve you well because, as we all know, that when you do get that job, oftentimes it's going to be pulling on your lived experience and the wonderful opportunity that you're going to have. I think you're going to find really quickly that the fact that you're working in a library while you're in library school is really powerful.
Yeah, I'm really excited for that, and that is a path that my supervising librarian took. That's something that I chatted with her about during my interview process, and I agree. That's the feedback I've gotten all over the place, is that having sort of the theoretical experience being in school while combining it with the practical experience of working in a library. Hopefully in 2 years when I have this degree, I'll be well suited to a full-time librarianship position.
And no experience is ever wasted. I'm just going to say that to you. And I'll say, as somebody who got my MLIS while I was a stay-at-home mom, created its own challenges because while it was my sanity check that I still had a brain, unfortunately I didn't have any practical opportunities to use what I was learning on a day-to-day basis at work.
Yeah, I'm really excited for that, and I think it's going to be a super positive experience, and I'm so interested to see where I ultimately land, because I did have such a fun time with the littles, but then the position that was available to me is with the older guys and the teens, and I'm so interested to see what is the same, what is different, and which one I ultimately like better.
At the end of the day, there's something to love about every grade level. What is it that brings you to this conference? What are you excited to see while you're here?
Because I'm so early in my experience and I'm making a complete career pivot. For the last 6 years, I've been working in government contracting. I wanted to come to this conference to sort of see what different paths are available to me and still, just trying to find my place in the field of librarianship and learn from folks who have been in the field longer than me and get to pick on their experience a little bit and see, what resonates and where maybe I might be a good fit.
Mary, we are so lucky to have you join our esteemed profession. I'm excited for the future and all that it holds for you. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Have a great conference.
Hi, everyone. I'm Caitlin Wingers. I work in Dhahran, Saudi Arabia. I'm an elementary librarian, K through 5, and I think that's all.
So, friends, Caitlin wins the prize for coming the furthest to this conference that I'm aware of. But you're on home leave from the work that you do in Saudi Arabia. And, friends, if you want to listen to my conversation with Caitlin, it's episode 316, International Librarianship. And it was absolutely inspiring because in another life, I would be living Caitlin's and working and living overseas. So, Caitlin, you have come a long way. Give us a little idea of how long it takes you to get from where you work to where you are on leave right now. And then what do you hope to get out of this conference? Because it's a really busy day and there's a lot of things to do and so little time.
Well, I didn't do the trip all in one day. So I've done this in parts. It takes 1 hour to get from where I live to Doha. That's our main hub. And then we made a stop in Ireland. That's 8 hours. And then 8 hours from Ireland to Chicago. And that's a 3-hour drive to Madison, Wisconsin. And then I did a flight from Madison, Wisconsin to Philadelphia, which was about 2 hours. So add that up. I'm a librarian, not a mathematician.
Well, I appreciate your dedication to your craft. You are taking a little bit of time out of your family visit that you're having right now. What are some things you're hoping to do while you're here at ALA that will enhance what you do in Dhahran?
Honestly, I'm just here to take it all in with a learner's mindset. I'm overwhelmed with how large the whole conference is, and there's so many sessions to attend. I feel like I'm in above my head, but I'm hoping to understand better the idea of what ALA is all about, because I'm a new member, I'm a new librarian, and I hope to take away some new knowledge that I can share with my team back in Saudi.
Fantastic. Now, I'm not going to lie. There are a lot of people who come here just for the stuff, meaning they bring extra suitcases so that they can fill their suitcases up. And friends, there's always a FedEx or a shipping company that's located in the convention hall, because people who come here always end up grabbing a whole bunch of free stuff and they want to take it home. But that becomes problematic for you. And I can well imagine that when you are on home leave, what you bring back and your precious luggage space. I don't know, are you going to be going after all those free books that they're handing out in the expo?
Did bring an extra suitcase based on your advice from your show. Thank you very much. And we will be traveling back with more luggage than we brought home.
You will. So this is absolutely fantastic. I am so grateful that you found me. I think it's sort of, friends, yes, well, there's a reason why I wear the jacket, friends. It is shameless advertising. But trying to find school librarians at a national conference can be a little difficult, just because this is a national conference for librarians, but I'm so grateful we got to connect. Thank you so much for the time you took to spend sharing your expertise on your episode. You're absolute inspiration for anybody looking to work overseas. I hope you have a safe trip and you enjoy the rest of your conference.
Hey, same to you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Rachel Scott. I am a middle school librarian in upstate New York, and I really love what I do.
So I love interviewing people who live in states that support their school librarians, and I'm learning very quickly that New York does an exceptional job of supporting the school librarians where they are in the state.
That's really, really true. We just had an incredible conference that a bunch of us went to, NILA SSL. If you can make it next year, you gotta go. It was incredible. We had it in Rochester, New York this year. Next year, it's in Ithaca. I'd highly recommend it. It was super helpful.
I love that. So let me ask you, what is it that you would like to share with listeners today?
I would like to share some advice for first-year librarians, because I was a first-year librarian recently.
Well, and I find this amazing because I'll be honest, I spent the first 5 years of being a librarian just trying to stay above water. And the idea of picking up and going to a conference was not even on my radar at that point. So I give you a lot of credit. What is it that you feel school librarians would be great to know as a first year?
I really feel like the most advice I got as a first-year librarian was focus on relationship building. Focus on relationship building with your students and focus on relationship building with your fellow teachers and administrators. That was really kind of where things things came through and things came together. I really wanted to be in the classroom. I wanted to be involved and collaborate with my fellow coworkers, but I wasn't sure how to approach it, especially when you're flex scheduled in your middle school. How do you do that? But I found kind of like building those relationships with the kids and getting the kids kind of talking about how excited they are to be in library and to enjoy library, got the teachers on board too.
Yeah, our students are excellent cheerleaders. And so it is a little sort of, you can run a little campaign through the kids and send that kind of messaging. I'm shameless. I'm absolutely shameless when it comes to bringing classes in by way of the students and extending those invitations and say, listen, ask your teacher to make sure that you have time down here in the learning commons for us. And, there's nothing wrong with getting the kids to be your advocate.
That's so, so true. My kids are my greatest advocate. We have the best time in library together. It's wonderful.
What are the kinds of things you're hoping to take away at the end of this conference?
Really excited to attend any kind of sessions that talk a lot more about collaboration and how to increase collaboration in your school library and how to increase a level of literacy across your entire school community. That's really what I'm looking for this year at A.I.L.A.
And tonight when the expo hall opens, what is it that you're going to go and fill your bags with?
Oh my, books. So many books, and then stickers, and then pins, whatever I can get my hands on.
Let me ask you, there are a lot of ARCs. They're going to be handing out a lot of advanced reader copies. Do you include those in your library? Do you let the students see those advanced reader copies? What do you do with the free giveaways that are ARCs?
Free giveaway, if I like it, I keep it. Furthermore than that, if I have an ARC, I like to use it as a giveaway for kids. If I know it's going to mean a lot to that kid, then I'll give it to the kids. I don't like to add ARCs to the collection just because they're not meant to be in a collection yet, and I like to purchase that with the school library's monies and support the author in that way. But I love giving them to the kids and kind of giving them a little preview of being like, look what's coming. They get really excited about it.
Rachel, I hope you have a fantastic conference and a terrific school year.
Thank you so much.
Hi, my name's Vicki, and I'm an elementary librarian in upstate New York in Rochester.
That's fantastic. And I know that New York is well represented at this conference. That's outstanding because they support their school librarians. So, Vicki, what is it that you'd like to share with listeners today?
So one of my major goals for this year is I really want to develop a professional development session and present it at NILA SSL next year. That's my goal. And it's going to be about using fairy tales to teach digital literacy and digital safety.
So I know they're getting a lot better about incorporating digital citizenship into accessible material to teach our younger students. Can you start to give us an idea of how you already do that in your program?
Yes, so what I do is I take some fairy tales, some common ones that the kids already know. Fairy tales is part of our curriculum in New York anyways. And so I use it, and for example, I use Little Red Riding Hood. And we talk about stranger danger. And when we're talking about it, I ask them, okay, is a stranger just the person on the street that you don't know? The person in the van who's trying to get you in with some candy? No, it's also the person in your Roblox chat room. You don't know who that person is, right? So we talk about things like that, about the fact that internet strangers are still strangers. Or we use the Three Billy Goats Gruff and we talk about bullying. And somebody big or badder is always going to come around, and we talk about cyberbullying that way. So these are some examples of fairy tales that I'm using. And one of my research goals this summer is actually to look for more fairy tales outside of like the Western, like Grimm's fairy tales, but also looking for some Latino ones. I have a very big Latino population at my school, some African folklore and stuff like that I can incorporate.
Well, I love that because you're sort of sneaking it in and including it in that part of the lesson. I would hope that when you do decide to present, that you also consider making this an episode that we could share with a larger listening audience.
Absolutely. I would be thrilled.
Well, we're always looking for ways to learn from one another. This counts. So we're going to recycle whatever it is you start to put together into something that we could share with our listeners. Vicki, I'm so excited you're here. I hope you have a fantastic conference. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for letting me do this. I appreciate it.
I'm Jessica Silva, and I'm here at my first ALA in Philadelphia, which is really exciting. And I am the member engagement specialist at an organization called R.A.I.L.S, which is Reaching Across Illinois Library System. And we support libraries all around Northwest Central Illinois.
So let me ask you, what does a typical day look like for you?
So I organize networking events, meetups. I'm basically a librarian for librarians. I stole that from my colleague, so she also does like a counterpart for me for the southern part. And I help any questions that they may have. I help facilitate networking groups, networking events, continuing education, making sure that they get to that, spreading awareness about our organization. I onboard new members as well, and new library directors, help them with our resources that we have available.
Well, I think anytime somebody comes in and helps librarians do their job, like, you're heroes, but the fact is you're also a librarian yourself. So when I told you I was a podcaster, you're like, I have a podcast too. And I know that you want to share it with our listeners, because anytime we can, raise each other up and help each other do what we do. But tell us about your podcast, because I can't wait to subscribe.
So our podcast, our organization, and a partnership with our southern organization, Illinois Heartland Library System, and we have a podcast called Can't Shelve This, and it's where we hammer home the importance of school libraries. So it's a great resource for school librarians, and we really hope you'll check it out.
So let me ask you, when I tune in, what are some of the kinds of things that you're sharing with your listeners?
So one really great episode is like how to work with your administration to advocate for your library. We have a great episode about supporting all sorts of students in your library, LGBTQIA+ students, and supporting equity and inclusion in your library. There's a really fun episode that's like soft library gripes. So that one's fun. And we have a season 2 coming, so we're really excited.
And friends, I do have a whole Can I Just Vent series, so I think we can all relate. Thank you so much, Jessica. I hope you have a great conference and a safe trip home.
Thank you for having me.
Hi, I'm Maureen Hallworth. I'm from Northern Virginia area, so right outside of D.C., and I am a school librarian in my master's program, and I am just going to be a first-year librarian next year.
I'm very excited to hear that you've actually already worked in the school libraries, and this would have been very helpful for me when I was considering becoming a school librarian. But tell us what you have been doing for the past 6 months.
There was an amazing opportunity at a school nearby to actually try out being a librarian. So I got to be a long-term sub for 6 months. And I also made lots of connections with the people in my district that allowed me to apply, because I was part of the county already, and get in that open part, because they didn't let anybody apply who wasn't part of the county. And just with the rebudgeting, it wouldn't have happened if I wasn't a long-term sub.
So forgive me, where are you in your coursework? Because are you in the early stages? Are you in the end stages? And how did working as a long-term sub, and forgive me, that is a lot of work, because instead of leaving at the end of the day, you're like, this mess is mine when I get back here tomorrow.
So I was about in the middle of my program. I've been kind of doing a compressed schedule in general, because my husband graciously gave me his GI Bill. And so I was trying to do a lot of classes at the same time, because they play months and not credits. So it was about halfway through. By the end of this summer, I will just have my 2 master's classes left and my portfolio and internship. But my internship gets to be part of my job, so that's really exciting.
Was what I was going to ask you. Wait a minute. You're already boots on the ground working in a library. That should count.
It should have. I stayed at home for 10 years as a stay-at-home mom after I taught for 6. So my school license had expired. And so Virginia Department of Education is very frustrating to get your license back right now. I'm not the only one. And so now I have it for 10 years. But because I was doing it before my license got reinstated, I can't count those hours. So I could have counted them if I had my license. So
got it. Well, and it sounds like, and a lot of people right now are nodding their heads going, yep, got to jump through those hoops. Absolutely. So I'm excited to hear that you are in your program. You were able to be a long-term sub. When the school year resumes in the fall, will you continue to work in the schools and the school libraries while you're also in graduate school?
Yes, absolutely. So I got a job at a local base, actually. So it's great because I'm in the county, and then I'll be serving the military community as well.
Well, we're awfully lucky to have you join the ranks. Maureen, thank you so much for joining us. And I congratulate you on making it a priority to come to this conference, because it really does support what we want to do. And I'm so inspired by hearing your story. But thank you very much for sharing with us.
My name is Robbie Barber, and I'm from Tucker, Georgia.
Friends, I got to tell you, Robbie and I go way back, and I mean that honestly, because this is our 6th year. This is our 6th anniversary. This is our 6th anniversary, and we met here in Philadelphia at the conference. So I got to tell you, I was kind of a lonely person at this point, but Robbie, you are a veteran coming to this conference, coming to conferences, and especially coming here to ALA.
That's true. And then we met at an ISTE conference, remember? And then we just kept running into each other, going to similar things, and started talking. And then I've been coming to ALA, and at some point I decided this was my annual treat to myself. So yes, I've been doing ALA, and now AASL. I've been to the last two. St. Louis will be the third.
To tell you, I think we met probably at the school librarians playground, and I went to your session.
That's true. I forgot about that. We did. We had the session in the corner at the various tables, and you were walking around. Yes, that is our first meeting.
And that was 6 years ago, and I asked you something, and like Amanda Jones, I also met her here 6 years ago. You said yes, and we had a little sit. We sat down in a quiet corner, and I asked you some questions, and you very graciously met me early in the morning, and which makes you my first interview that I did that got everything else started.
Incredible to think about, because I've simply been following you too long, and all your successes, the incredible, and like I said earlier, you're such a librarian. As soon as things got complicated, you organized, you put together documents. It's very easy for me to go back now and find something if I want to show it to somebody else, or listen to it and so on, or even reread it, because I'm less of a listener and more of a reader. It's all there. You've provided it.
Well, and I got to tell you, it's when somebody says yes to opportunities, it is not insignificant. It really does change the course of how things work when we all realize the potential we have we are, hashtag better together. So let me ask you something. I am incredibly envious of your skill at getting conference proposals accepted. So friends, I never miss a presentation by Robbie, but could you shed some light on what is your thinking when you go into writing proposals that seems to have this ability to get people to say, yes, come present at our conference?
So the first thing I usually have is quantity. I put in a lot of proposals and the hopes that one gets picked. But also, the reason I put them together in the first place is I do a lot of research. I'm really into research. There are a lot of things, but for me, research for the sake of research and theory isn't what I want. I want to find a way to pull it back together to practical application to help my students or my faculty or my parents be able to do something. And in the end, as long as that's my focus, and that's my focus of every single one, like this one that I'm going to do Sunday is how images manipulate us. That turns out to be a lot more psychology, but I really had to dig into it because it's all part of understanding what we're absorbing in the world. And then if I can show my students and my teachers and my parents, all the better.
Well, and I find that anytime you start to put together a concept, you realize there are going to be gaps in your knowledge, and you do an inventory of what you have on this topic and realize that there are areas that you're going to need to build out in order to give a larger picture.
That's absolutely true. And once you start digging in, so usually I have some research that I have been doing. I've sort of got an idea that I'm putting this together to a practical application, and I start putting some together. And at that point, I can make it a submission. If it gets accepted, then as I start to build it out, I can see the areas where I need a little more research, a little more things. And sometimes I actually do the same one multiple times. I've done this one with another group, and I realized there were holes when I did it. And so I hopefully have filled in some of those holes, at least to my feeling. I now have a smoother presentation that makes more sense. It's more cohesive and so on, which is all important when you're putting it together. The trick is getting them to say yes in the first place.
Well, Robbie, you are a hero. I want to wish you a happy 6th year anniversary for our friendship. And thank you for being an inspiration to me and for making sure that when librarians put themselves out there, that we have the support of other librarians. You really are a model for everybody.
I just love the fact that we have gotten together and seen each other repeatedly. It wasn't a one-off, and have become friends. And I follow your adventures, and I'm so excited. I am.
Robbie, thank you so much. I hope you have a great conference, and I can't wait to see your session.
I will see you Sunday. Bye.
Hello, everyone. My name is Lauren Mobley, and I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. Whoop, whoop.
Well, and friends, I got to tell you, Lauren and our friendship goes quite a ways back. Lauren has been featured on our podcast twice already, and I absolutely love learning from you. But what I want to talk about today is the fact that you are also a fellow podcaster, and I want you to first of all tell us the name of your podcast, and I'd love to learn a little bit about what motivates you when you feature voices on your podcast.
So, yeah, I have a little podcast myself. It's called Library Unlocked. Clink, clink. I like to lock it down. And my library podcast is really just a fun space for school librarians to chat. I talk with some awesome authors, and it's really important for me to amplify diverse voices on my podcast. So I am all about finding what works, what doesn't, and really having a great time. It's really light. And we just laugh and giggle. You know, Library Unlocked also stands for LOL. So you're guaranteed to have a good time just relaxing and hearing from different people's perspectives.
I love that because, you know, sometimes when I get very targeted in where I'm looking to fill in, you know, content, and I'm looking at, is it high school, is it middle school, is it elementary, am I doing enough on this topic, and I love that you come at this with a very fresh and your energy is something that I want to be able to bottle and harness.
You're making me blush. You know, I love your podcast, first of all, and I'm so grateful for you having me on. And I wanted something that was more, I said, you know, if there's something that you want, make it. So that's why I went forward, and you kind of inspired me to just step out and do it myself. So I did.
Well, and friends, a rising tide lifts all boats. That when it comes to learning from listening, I find that there's something so intimate about being a podcaster and freeing, because it's a platform where you have a complete control over everything you do and who you bring on your show.
Right, because the good thing about podcasting is, first of all, you don't have to have the camera on. Although I started doing that, and that is a whole new beast. But you can still, you know, edit as you please. We can redo it. It's fine. And it's really intimate, like you said. You get to have these great conversations with people and forge new relationships and then share those conversations with the world. So it really is an awesome and refreshing experience. And if you're thinking about starting a podcast, hey, I think we don't have enough. So go ahead and get on the boat.
Well, and friends, also more importantly is that this is on demand. You are a young mom, emphasis young, friends, because as the matron in this profession, you know, Lauren is, you have babies, and you have a very, very busy life because you work full time.
You are right about that. Yeah, I've got 2 little kids, and podcasting has been something fun and light to kind of keep me like, you know, there's something just for me. However, though, when I do get kind of tired and overwhelmed, I'm like, all right, we're going to put that down. And it's okay because it's a podcast. It's not that deep.
No rules. Absolutely not. Listen, Lauren, I am so excited for the content that you put out. I want to encourage listeners tuning in that you add Lauren's Library Unlocked to their list of must-listens. And I hope you have a fantastic conference. Thank you so much. And I'm going to see you in St. Louis.
Yes, hopefully. Fingers crossed you'll see me there. Thanks so much for having me, Amy.
Thank you so much.
My name's Debbie Newhouse, and I am a school librarian, an elementary school librarian in Plymouth, Massachusetts. And I'm so happy to be here today at ALA.
So I notice that you are an exhibitor, and so I'd love to know what it is, because we are here in the expo hall. It is an absolute sea of madness and joy and all things book related. What brings you here?
Volunteering at the Zine Pavilion today, and part of it is that zines are just amazing because they work for anything, for anyone, any genre, any interest, any age level, any ability. A zine can be like a comic book. A zine can be like a novel. It can be whatever you make it to be. It is all yours. And it's a great way to get a reluctant reader into reading by getting them to express their interests on paper so that you learn more as the librarian about them and what they want, and you can find that just right book to hook them.
That sounds amazing. I love that you're building that agency and you're also empowering your readers. Let me ask you, I've heard about people incorporating zines into their collection in the schools. Have you ever explored that?
I have, and I have been thinking about doing sort of a digital collection with a program called Book Creator. I'm not any sort of representative for them, but with Book Creator, you get to create your own thing. You get to include your own pictures, your own fonts, your own everything. And for kids who have dysgraphia, who have really a lot of trouble holding the pencil, it's great because it's all digital.
I love that idea, and I would wonder, what do you suppose? I mean, let's just think this through. When we take self-published things that our students create, would we then perhaps put that on a platform, like a closed platform, one that could be accessible just only to our school community?
Absolutely. Just available to the school. Anyone who I give the passcode to join that particular library so they can then explore other people's books in a safe environment. And so long as they keep it safe, they retain the privilege to be part of that library.
The experience of teachers using zines as a form of a final assessment piece, so a culminating product. I know in the high school, we have some high school teachers who have allowed podcasts and zines to be a formal evaluative tool that they use.
Not had other teachers use it, but I personally have. So by doing that, by personally doing it and then sharing it with the teachers, I've kind of developed a little bit of interest, so I'm hoping that this next school year I can nurture that and get more interest.
Debbie, that's fantastic. I really, truly appreciate you. Thank you so much for all you're bringing to the conference today.
Very, very welcome. Thank you for allowing me to be interviewed.
So my name is Teresa Bruce. I am the founding librarian at KIPP Baltimore in Baltimore, Maryland. And what I do every day, change lives.
I love that. That's change lives. There you go. Enough said. Keep it simple. There's your elevator pitch. For me, it's help everyone. So let me ask you, KIPP Baltimore, tell me what this is. I'm really interested.
So KIPP is a national network of charter schools. It was founded in the 90s, started in New York and Texas originally. KIPP stands for Knowledge is Power Program because it started like within a school and then it became its own brand. So KIPP Baltimore is comprised of two schools, KIPP Harmony Academy, which is our elementary school, and KIPP Ujima Village Academy, which is our middle school.
Wow, and tell me, how do you fit into the equation? What is your job?
So my job as school librarian is to support everyone else, right? To support our staff, to support our children. As a part of our 5-year strategic plan, literacy is a key point, a focal point, and the library and its creation and use is a part of that to improve our literacy rates, but also to make sure that our children either discover or rediscover the joy of reading.
Love it. It sounds like you're in high demand. It sounds like you've made yourself absolutely vitally essential to the success of your school. How do you feel about looking ahead? Are you optimistic?
It looks great. KIPP Baltimore is going to be a beacon light for all libraries, not only in Baltimore City, not only in Maryland, but eventually, I hope, across all of the states. It is our goal to make sure that our children have access so that they have opportunity, so that they choose their destiny.
Well, I think what's vitally important is they've also decided that having a certified school librarian in their space is going to be part of their success.
Yep, because you cannot have anything without literacy. Literacy is the ground zero for learning. It opens the doors to everything and everyone else. And so we recognize that having a robust library media program is not only essential inside the school, but it impacts the community around us.
Well, Teresa, I'm really sad that you and I are not colleagues because I could really use this kind of energy on a regular basis. But thank you so much for sharing your excitement with us, and I'm really grateful that you're here at the conference.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Barb, and I come to this conference because it's the mothership, and it just makes me so happy to see so many people who understand how important reading is and how important story is and how important technology is and how important, just humanity is. And as a high school librarian, I think that my most important thing that I do is I am a completely unqualified guidance counselor, but just being an adult that kids can come to where I'm not grading them. And I always have things that I'm trying to give them. And yeah, it's books and they don't necessarily want them, but you know what? I can talk those little stinkers into taking them every once in a while. And just, I don't know, being part of the joy of story is what it's all about for me. I do the technology. I do the information literacy. God knows it's so important. But I just love telling stories, hearing stories, and making sure that kids know that they can save lives.
Well, Barbara, let me ask you, because you are here, what is it? Obviously by day, you're a school librarian, but you are very busy during the rest of your, you don't just stop there, do you? You have a second life.
I'm also a professor in a library media education program, and so I get to train new librarians, and that's really fun because, they come in thinking one thing about what libraries are, depending on how old they are. And then when they get through the program, they realize that we're librarians, but we're library teachers. We are people who empower kids to learn in so many different ways. And it's just fun to just show them how much fun the job can be and how rewarding the job can be. And also, give them the necessary skills and strategies and that kind of thing.
Well, I got to be honest. I went to library school more than 20 years ago. So I got to tell you, I was not prepared for the onslaught that would come when it came to book bans. And I think 20 or 30 years ago, that wasn't something that we spent more than 5 minutes discussing. So let me ask you, what do you do to make sure that your students who are aspiring to work in our school libraries, what is it that you make sure they are doing to prepare for the demands of being a school librarian?
Well, this is going to be a really sexy answer, but it's all about the collection and reconsideration policy. And they're all like, what now? But you got to have it written in stone. I teach, my favorite course to teach is the young adult literature course, and we do we do several sections about representation. One of our units is called Sexy Books, and we talk about, books about, gender issues, sexuality issues, and I say, and occasionally a student has been like, oh, well, I'm probably going to be in middle school, and I'm like, honey, if you're in elementary school, you need to be aware of these issues because every kid is impacted. Every kid needs to see themselves, and you've got to be, right there making the fight happen.
I'm so grateful that you are on the front lines and making sure that the next generation of library leaders has what they need to succeed. Barbara, thank you so much for joining us today, and I hope you have a fantastic rest of the conference.
Thank you so much. You too.
Hi, my name is Rachel Ann Menke. For the last 11 years, I've been at St. Matthew's Parish School in Pacific Palisades. In August, I will be starting at the Park School in Brookline, Massachusetts.
Wait, that's a big move. I didn't know. So forgive me, but this sounds very exciting. You're going to be starting at a brand new school this school year.
Yes, I will. I pretty much only do big moves. Prior to Los Angeles, I had been living in the Kingdom of Bahrain. So this is actually the third job in a row that I've accepted without actually visiting the place that I'm moving to. But I'm really excited.
I'm so glad you're here and you're taking time out of the conference to share with listeners. What is it that you would like to let us know, today?
Well, for the last couple years, I've been experimenting with the idea of micro-museums in the library. A few years ago at the R.A.I.L.S conference, I went to this amazing workshop on research skills for kindergarten through second grade, and the presenters were talking about how even before they can read, kids are reading the world around them. In part as a way of playing around with that idea, I was trying to bring in more manipulatives and visuals into the library when one morning at recess, some girls ran in off of the playground because a monarch chrysalis had blown off of the leaf, and they wanted to know if it could be saved. So I borrowed a butterfly tent, and we strung it up, and I put out a display of butterfly books next to it, and then our tech director walked by and said, "Oh, you should put up a webcam in case the butterfly comes out when school is not in session." So then we had a live cam pointing at it and a QR code to hook people up to the webcam feed. And then another child brought in a butterfly wing that they'd found on the pavement. So I borrowed a microscope from the science department so that kids could see the tiny scales on a butterfly wing. And we put out some more high-resolution photos of butterflies, had a few iPads with looping videos, and this collection just kind of took on a life of its own. Kids were running in at different times of day just to check on the butterfly, and it was a really amazing experience. So then I decided that this might be something we could replicate with other themes, and I was working on a micromuseum with a dinosaur focus for a scale T-Rex skeleton next to some cleaned off chicken bones, a bunch of dinosaur books. I have dinosaur fans at home, so I had a small collection of cheap fossils that the kids could sort and look at, and some questions to answer about how are chickens similar and different from Tyrannosaurus rexes. And I like the idea that this brings in a different sort of kid than might necessarily be sitting in a corner with a book at recess. And it also really enforces the idea that information is all around us and they're always reading the world.
Well, and I think this really taps on that all-important idea of inquiry. And we're trying to initiate and instigate opportunities for inquiry in the most unexpected places. And so you include manipulatives, you are engaging the senses with our students. What a winning combination. I really hope that when you think about all these things and you do put these into practice, consider putting, we'll have an episode. We'll do a recording together. Rachel, I wish you the very best luck in this move, because it sounds like you're very excited and this is something that you are really going to flourish, absolutely flourish.
Thank you so much, Amy. I'm a big fan.
Hi, my name is Shannon. I'm from Richmond, Virginia, and I am a high school librarian.
Excellent. We have that in common. So, again, I'm very excited. I'm going to be seeing the Virginia Association of School Librarians this fall. Very excited to do that. But you're here today. So let me ask you, before we started to record, you told me this is your very first ALA. I'm so curious to know, what is it that motivated you to come? What are you excited to see? And what is it that you're hoping to take back home?
I'm a huge nerd, so I love learning, and it makes me so happy. So I love going to conferences. Even when I was a French teacher before, I loved going to FLAVA. Shout out to FLAVA, the Foreign Language Association of Virginia. And so I continually love to learn. And I had never been to ALA, and I won an award that gave me grant money to come here. So I'm very excited just to learn from everybody, public librarians, academic librarians, school librarians. I went to an awesome counseling session and doing maker therapy, and just wondered with how to help students with significant disabilities. So I'm trying to just absorb everything, going to hear speakers, heard Dr. Carla Hayden today, and was just so inspired by her and just love her. And I'm just very excited to be in Philly.
Fantastic. Now, you mentioned you got an award. Let's brag a little bit. What award did you receive?
I received the AASL Francis Henney Award for librarians within their first 5 years.
Congratulations. This is noteworthy. You are being recognized for the outstanding work that you've been doing as a very new librarian in this profession.
Yes, I was very shocked when I won. I was very excited, try not to have that imposter syndrome, but I feel like I'm doing a good job, and so I'm excited that I got it.
Okay, that's garbage. You do more than a good job. You do more than a good job. What I want to know is, what is it that caught the attention of the committee that was looking at all of these entries? Because there was a large group of very eligible individuals, but yours stood out for a reason. So tell me why.
I like to think I'm super passionate about being a school librarian. So I was a middle school librarian at my old middle school. Shout out to Fallen Creek Middle School. Go Panthers. And I was able to do a lot with them with bringing literacy and just showcasing the library every morning on the slides, and we did a poetry slam, and we were able to bring Kwame Alexander to school thanks to Title I money.
And forgive me, bringing authors is expensive. How were you able to make that possible?
It was Title I money because I was at a Title I middle school, and so that was that, and thanks to our phenomenal bookkeeper, we were able to do that and bring him to our school. So just a lot of stuff there. And then in my high school library, I did a training at the Virginia Holocaust Museum, and I do background stations with interactive multimedia stations with English so they could build up their background knowledge, because sadly our kids don't know a lot about the Holocaust. And then they could go into their unit with literature. And I learned at Longwood to be a good school librarian, a good steward of our profession. And so I tried to get back to my profession, and I was the director-elect of the James region for VASL, and now I'm the current treasurer for VASL. So that's just a little bit.
Okay, you've officially accomplished a great deal more than some of us have accomplished in 17 years of being in the profession. So listen, friends, I'm going to make sure to include a link in our show notes to your recognition, because this is really exciting, and I'm so happy for you, because it did make a lot of things possible when you can get to come to this conference. I'm so excited that you and I are going to see each other twice in the coming months. Once, we're going to be at AASL in St. Louis, and then we're going to be at VASL at the Virginia Association of School Librarians.
I am very excited. I've only been to one other AASL, and St. Louis is a great city, so I'm excited to learn and just be with just like-minded people who know what it is to be a school librarian in America right now.
So looking forward to, not only seeing you, you've got an amazing future in this profession, and congratulations, and I hope you have a great rest of the conference.
Thank you so much, Amy. I love you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Sam Hall. I am president-elect for 2 more days of the Pennsylvania School Librarians Association. On Tuesday, I will be the president. I am here at ALA as a representative of PSLA, but also as a high school librarian and a Fulbright grantee, fresh on the ground back in the States.
We've never done an episode like this, but you and I connected, I think, back in January for just a hot minute, and you were in the process of packing. And I said, listen, let's have a quick conversation now, because I know that we're going to follow up when you get back, but just give us an idea of where you've been for the past 5 months.
Sure. I spent the past 5 months from January till June in Finland, specifically in Jyväskylä, Finland, which is 3 hours north of Helsinki. And I was investigating the intersection of public school, compulsory education, and public libraries there, because lo and behold, Finland didn't have a lot of school libraries, which they wanted to ask me all the questions about, and they know that they would be better suited with. But I compiled a lot of research, and I am happy to share some results.
Fantastic. Well, listen, I am so excited. Pennsylvania is awfully lucky to have somebody who is so committed to your craft that you have taken this to a whole new level. I'm really looking forward to talking with you soon in greater detail to follow up on the things that you've learned about, because I think we can learn so much from how other countries support, especially because Finland's got an amazing literacy rate. So, Sam, let me ask you, is there something that you're looking for here when you are trying to fill the gaps in your own education?
All the gaps. I think mostly I'm always looking for reader recommendation, book recommendations for the genres I don't love and I don't gravitate towards. As a high school librarian and K-12 supervisor, that's always a gap that I can fill. And things I didn't know is what the beauty of conference allows for.
Dr. Hall, I hope you have a fantastic rest of the conference, and I look forward to following up in our conversation soon.
Me too. I hope everyone can satisfy their curiosity this week.
Okay,
Hi, my name is Taira Rivera. I'm from San Juan, Puerto Rico.
So tell me, what brings you here?
Well, we are here presenting AI Gone Right, Fostering Responsible Tech Use and Academic Integrity.
I was the lucky one who got to be in your audience. And I'm going to tell you right now, every school librarian is struggling with this because people are coming to us thinking that we are going to lead the way when it comes to AI. And let me ask you, when AI came on the scene, you realized that school librarians were going to be part of the conversation.
Yeah, actually, this is my first year in school, so I was integrated into this project with EdTech Technology, Vilmari Torres, and we began the project this year.
Tell me a little bit about how you helped your school navigate using AI ethically.
Well, for this project in particular, what we do it was to integrate the students in the conversation. Part of the conversation is how to use AI in an ethical way. So we make some activities for them to talk to each other and just like begin the conversation on how AI should be used.
I love that because I think all too often we try as adults to come up with a solution and then from the top down.
And I think peer things that happen in school are more significant, more relevant for them also because they talk the same language.
Can I ask, how did your teachers receive some of this AI the concerns? Because I know teachers are very worried about how we can work with our young people and not have them abuse AI.
Well, I have to say at some point we were lucky because a lot of teachers were on board. As you know, there's like some teachers that are not, but what we make, we build like a safe space for them to learn about AI and talk about it and then get to conclusions. And now you figure it out how they can use it in their classroom. Because at the end of the day, what we want is that everybody in school talk the same language and everybody understand what's going on. So I think our magic there is to make them part of the process.
I agree. What recommendations would you have to schools which are trying to find a way to work with AI and not invite the students to abuse it?
Wow, that's a great question. I think for us is, like I said before, is make everybody part of the process, hear the voices of the students, let them know that they're a part of the process, that we are not punishing them because they're using AI or that we are in disagreement with them using AI. At the end of the day, it's something that it's there and we use it too, let's be real. So we just want them to know that it's right ways to use it, wrong ways to use it, and the impact that we want to have is that they don't lose their voice during the process because AI is just a platform for them to use, but it's not necessarily what's reflect their voices, so we want them to keep them.
I am so grateful you took time out of your busy schedule. Thank you for traveling all this way to this conference. I hope you have a fantastic summer. Thank you for sharing your expertise.
Thank you.
So our next guest wins the prize. You've come here from halfway around the world. And would you introduce yourself and tell us where you're from and what brings you here to ALA?
Hi, my name is Rosie and I am head of library at a girls' school in North Sydney, Australia. So I do think I won the prize for coming as far as I can to come to this conference. I was really lucky to be granted a teaching fellowship as part of my school's professional practice, where I am looking at how libraries build communities for the future. So as part of that, I've looked at libraries in Europe, And then I've had this opportunity to come to ALA, and it has been a really amazing opportunity to hear different perspectives that I wouldn't have been exposed to, meet people who I have had instant library connections with. I feel like there's a certain, I don't know how to describe it, but like library love that we just have, and we're all here for the same thing, and that's been really lovely to find halfway around the world.
Friends, if you're interested, it is basically 23 hours in the air, and you will be in Australia, so that's pretty fantastic. And I'm excited because this is a really overwhelming space. I mean, right now we've got 15,000 attendees, 500 vendors in the expo hall. It is overwhelming, even if you've been to a conference like this before. Can you share, have there been, obviously you've made some great connections with other librarians here in the space. What kinds of things in terms of did you go to a session or in the vendor hall? What were some things that you might like to see when you go back to Australia?
I have been to some phenomenal sessions, particularly ones about AI in schools, and I think the thing for me is that I could walk away with a practical application of how I could apply things to schools in my area. That was really important to me. Walking around the market hall was, I have to say, very overwhelming, and so I had to break it down into sections. Day by day, I would do a few runs. And I think what I really liked about it was everyone's willingness to have a conversation about different kinds of libraries, different kinds of resources, and why things would or would not work for your own environment and your landscape.
Well, and what really excites me is that you and I had this lovely opportunity to meet, and it's always fun when you open up your email and you get a request, say, hey, let's meet for coffee. I'd love to talk with you about your podcast. So let me ask you, can you share with us just a little bit about what are your aspirations when it comes to podcasting?
Yeah, sure. So I work with ALIA schools. I'm a volunteer with ALIA schools, and ALIA is ALA's equivalent in Australia. And we have a group of really passionate librarians who can see that there is a gap in the market. So we are hoping, I don't know if it will happen, but we are hoping to create a podcast that is dedicated to the nitty-gritty nuts and bolts of what librarianship and school libraries are in Australia.
Absolutely. And listen, I'm telling you right now, as long as one of those people on that committee feels it that this is an imperative, this is important, it is valued, it is a way for you to get those voices heard in the most accessible and cost-effective way possible. I really hope this happens for you. I have had such a wonderful conversation with you, and I've loved connecting with school librarians halfway around the world. We've done this over the years. I wish you well. I hope you have a very safe trip home, and thank you so much for speaking with me today.
Oh, thank you. I can't believe that you answered my 9:30 random email last night, and here we are. It's been an absolute delight, and certainly I will keep you posted on whether or not we're successful.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Friends, I greatly appreciate all the attendees who took time out of their busy day at the conference to share their experiences on the podcast. There are almost 15,000 of them throughout the convention center, and I was excited to capture some of that energy and excitement by recording conversations in real time. I will continue to offer this type of episode when I go to conferences because there is nothing more authentic than connecting with school librarians as we go about our day. If you found this episode helpful, please share it out with your team, your PLN, and on social media. Be sure to follow on your favorite podcatcher so you'll never miss an episode. And if you really like listening today, consider leaving a review. Wherever you listen to podcasts, reviews help others find us. I hope you take a look at our link to Junior Library Guild in our show notes. Use the code UNITED15 to receive 15 free books with your first shipment. The topic of our next episode will be Fulbright Teacher Exchange and my conversation with Dr. Samantha Hull. I hope you will tune in.